Hello team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab, and today we're going to discuss about control categories and type. This topic not only help you for your ISC Square, ISACA, EC Council, CompTIA exam, but also help you for your interview preparation. So my name is Prab Nair and I will be an instructor for this session. And for more information, you can refer my LinkedIn profile. So let's start with the first part. When we're talking about controls, controls are basically introduced to manage the behavior of the people, process and technology in the organization. That's why we have a three type of controls in the organization. The first is called as a technical control, something you implemented technical in nature. Example, firewall, antivirus. So you just installed, their technical function is involved there by which they try to detect, by which they try to block, and they do their activity. So something was technical in nature which tried to manage the behavior. That is called as a technical control. One more example I can give you. Suppose this is the firewall we configure and we created a rules in the firewall. So my work is over. Now any packet is going to the firewall, their technical function is going to inspect the packet, compare against the rule, and based on that it will allow or deny. So my involvement is not there. The technical function was involved to inspect the packet and take the further decision. So that is called as a technical control. So if you go by the layman term, hardware, software mechanism use the manager access to resource and system and provide protection for those systems like encryptions. All are basically example of the technical control. Second is called as a physical control. The control that you implement physical in nature, which block, detect, alert physical in nature. Example is physical lock that you install on the doors. So you need a physical key to insert and operate, and by which you open the door. Otherwise you cannot able to access the facility. That is a perfect example. Then physical detective camera. Camera is there which is physically installed and detect your activity. Something was physically configured there, something was physically placed there which monitor your behaviors, which block your behavior. So that is called as a physical control. Third is basically called as a administrative control. Administrative control is set of instructions which is set by the management to control the behavior of the people. Example, management has introduced one notice, one rule that we have to resume the office from the March. And for that, you need to carry your vaccination certificate. So it's an instruction. Clearance process, hiring process, background check. It's instructions. It's instructions which is used to control the behavior, not something technically implemented, not something physically implemented, but it is set of rules or soft cultures or soft control which used to control the behavior in the organization. So these are the three type of controls we have. We're going to discuss each and every type in more detail in the next slides. Okay, so first part is called as the administrative control. Okay, so we have some examples here like operational procedure, like we have a document with us. And according to the SOP document, we follow all the instructions and everything, which is set by my manager. I join the organization, I need to access something. So I have checked the policy. In policy, it is mentioned until unless you don't have a clearance, you can't access the thing. So something was set by the management by which we controlling the behavior. That is a different story. Through the technology we can implement, but that become a technical in control. But here some instructions, some policies already created by the management to control the behavior. Then we hired a human which monitoring and supervising the people and checking whether they're working as per the policy or not. That's administrative control. We have a user management process. Okay, I'm sure user management and privilege management, you might be thinking it is a technical control. No. Suppose someone join as an organization as a new employee and all that, through the user management process. It's a process, it is a policy we have created, and according to that user management process, we issue the new username password, we manage the username password. Through the tool like SailPoint and all that, we are issuing that, then it is become a technical control. Okay, any kind of a privileged credentials we need to manage, it need to be managed through a privilege management control. So these are the examples we have for the administrative control, like introducing a separation of a duty policy that one person will not perform end-to-end task. So it's an instruction. So we have to make sure we have a three people in the process where the one person will approve, one person will sign, and one person will make the payment. So it's an instruction, it's an order, it's a requirement which is used to control the behavior. Okay, so that is called as an administrative control. Now next thing is called as a physical control, something we implemented physical in nature. Example, network segregation. So we have one physical switch and we have another physical switch. So by which we can able to segregate the host physically. So that is the one example we have, network segregation. Okay, then we have a perimeter security. It is a mechanism that provides the physical access control by providing protection for individuals, facility, and the component within the facility. It means one human or one user cannot able to access the other part of the perimeter physically because his card doesn't work. Example, this is the facility we have. This is the one perimeter, this is another parameter. One person came from outside, he can able to access this area physically. But if he try to access this area, he need to punch card. When he punched the card, his access was rejected. So physically, we prevent him to access this area. Physically, we prevent them to access this area because there is a guard, there is a door, there is a proper lock control is there. So something was physically installed there which prevent them to access that particular area. Then we have a computer control. Computer control, like we have a locks on the laptops, we have a locks on the system, so no one can take it physically from there. Okay, then work area separation, like we creating a cabins by which we ensure one person should not able to access the other area. Data backups ensure access to information in the case of emergency or disruption of a network or a system. So that is the data backups. I'm talking about data backup here is physical access of the data backups on the offsite and all that. Then we have a cabling. All cables need to be routed through the facility and all that. So we're providing a proper physical security to the cablings. So they should not able to access that cable directly. They should not burn it. They should not cut it. Okay, which can be lead to the eavesdropping. So something you have implemented physical in nature. So that is called as a physical control. Okay. Next thing is basically called as a technical control, which is technical in nature, like user access. Now, as a user, I want to access. So I have a system A and I want to access system B. So when I request for an access, like request for the IP, B automatically asks for the username and password. It is not something a user is there who follow the company order and ask. No, there's a technical function is involved which automatically asks the system A. I'm sure whenever you're accessing any kind of a folder, resources and all that, it always asks for the username and password of the target system. So it is an authentication procedure. So single factor is there, multi-factor is there, two-factor is there. Same thing happen in the case of network access also. In network access, you're trying to connect the systems on the network, okay, with the help of router, with the help of switch, we're creating a logical segmentations. So there is a technical control in the switch we have by which we're creating a logical segmentation. Okay, we can do physical segmentation by physically isolate the switch. But within the switch, we can have a logical segmentation. We call it as a VLAN. So that is because of a technical control we have in the switch. Remote access like VPN. So user is connecting via VPN server asks for the username and password. So there is a technical function is involved. Then we have a application access where the application may have a layer of control like user activity, object security, internal services. Then any malware in the system, there is a malware control is there which detect the malware. So it is a technical function by which they try to block. And finally, we have a encryption, which is used to protect the data in a technical manner. So key is need to be feed by which encrypt and decrypt the data. So these are the control which are technical in nature. Okay, we just configure it and they just work technically. So these are the three type of controls we have, but the question is how they work. That is why we have a 7 category, and that I'm going to discuss in my next slide. Okay, so we have discussed about type of controls, which is a 3 type of controls. And now we're going to discuss about 7 category. Perhaps 7 category? Yes, But here I can see on the screen 6 categories. Yes, so one category is missing here, which is a deterrent control. We don't implement, but we just create that environment. That is why it is missing here. So moral of the story here is we have a 3 type of control, and each type performs 7 type of functions. If I say we have a lock, why we need a lock? So we can able to block unauthorized user to access a facility. So it's a physical preventative control. So this is how it works. So whenever we organizing a control, we organize them in a form of type with category. So categories are the function. So the first control here is called as a directive control. Directive control is like giving instructions. Okay, a mandatory control that have been put in place due to the regulations or environmental requirement. One example of the directive control is speed limit sign, which is a common example of a directive control. Okay, when you join the facility, when you join the organization, they have given the direction. For the masked people go this side and non-masked people go this side. So it's a directive, it's a direction. Okay, so some controls are there which basically give the direction. And that is called as a directive control. One more example is no one's supposed to browse social media 9 to 5. It's a directive control, a kind of a technical directive, because there's a technical information is there which instructing the people. No one's supposed to browse social media 9 to 5. That's a directive control. Now in this message, if I add one more point, if I find anyone browsing social media 9 to 5, we will take a very strict action against the employee. So this message create a fear. This message create a deterrent environment. Deterrent. Oh, so I am new to the company and I heard this thing is that I have seen this in the policy that no one's supposed to browse social media 9 to 5. And if they find us browsing social media 9 to 5, then they can terminate me. So it create a fear. And I will think twice before doing this activity. So here in the directive control, this word was added to discourage the user. One more example is when you go to the bank. In the bank, it is mentioned you are under CCTV monitoring. It's a directive control. It's giving you direction that this system is under the CCTV monitoring. If they don't put that message, it is considered as a spy. That is why they post this message. They post this sign that, okay, this area is under CCTV monitoring. So for an intruder, it is like a deterrent. Oh, there is a CCTV monitoring camera. It might track my activity. So deterrent access control or deterrent control is deployed to discourage the violation of our security functions. Deterrent control pick up where the prevention leaves off. Deterrent does not stop with trying to prevent an action. Instead, it go further to exact the consequences in the event of attempted or the successful violation. Okay, so we have a strong fence. We just created this information. We have a strong fence. Oh, they have a strong fence. Oh, I am unable to get into this facility. They have a too much security control. So this kind of an environment discourage my behavior. So that is called as a deterrence control. That's why it is not mentioned here, because it is just like a placement of the environment or create an environment. Next control is called as a preventative control. It is a control which used to avoid an incident in the organization. Okay. It is introduced to stop the unwanted or unauthorized activity from occurring. Example of a preventative control, like technical preventative, is firewall. We install the firewall to make sure unauthorized user should not able to access my facility. Okay. We install the lock, which will make sure physical user should not able to access the unauthorized area. Okay. Everyone has to sign in the register. So it is an administrative preventative. Until unless you don't sign, you can't access the facility. So message convey the meaning of preventative parameter. So that is called as a preventative control. Same example, everyone have a clear mandatory parameter. No one's supposed to browse social media 9 to 5. Now there is a one user. What he did, he tried to open social media. But there was a endpoint DLP installed in his laptop, or there was a proxy which is installed in the network. So whenever he tried to send Facebook request and all that, this proxy will try to block that. So it prevent that solution will prevent from browsing such kind of website which is against the company policy. So we cannot completely rely only on a directive control. That is why with the directive control, we implement the preventative control. That is why it is part of building defense. But only rely on one single preventative control will not be a good effective practice. That is why we introduce the compensating control. Compensating control is basically introduced to support my existing controls. One common example I can give you. We introduce a policy parameter in the organization that every user must follow 8-character password. Now some users are frustrated. They set only 4-character password example, but we need to protect their accounts. So what we did, we enable the OTP with that one-time password. So tomorrow if their account get hacked, their password get hacked, still the hacker need a OTP access. So my first control, which is a password, is already hacked. But thank God we have enabled the OTP which stopped that activity. So that is a perfect example of the compensating control. So in this case, when he tried to browse social media, okay, he's sending a request by proxy. So proxy will try to block that, which is installed on the network. So what he did, he disconnect the network and he trying to connect his dongle. And through the dongle, he want to browse the private surfing. But what happened is there was an endpoint DLP which is installed in his system which prevent him to run that internet connection. My primary control is failed, and that is why we introduce a secondary control which is an endpoint DLP which is installed in his laptop. Same like he trying to open the Gmail and through which he want to upload some data. And he discovered that, okay, he unable to send through his proxy. So he disconnected, he connect the pen drive, but there was an endpoint DLP installed in his laptop which prevent him from copying those files. So my primary control was failed and secondary control is there to block that. But by hook and crook, he was able to browse the social media. So his actions get detected in the SIM. That's why we have a detective control here. Detective access control is deployed to discover the unwanted or unauthorized activity. And here he was able to bypass the policy, he was able to bypass the proxy, he was able to bypass the DLP, so his actions get detected. So first thing what we did is a corrective action. So corrective control is basically like a temporary activity that we can do against the system. Okay, so corrective is like remediate the circumstances or mitigate the damage which is during the incident, which is done during an incident. So corrective control is deployed to restore the system to normal, not complete normal, but partial normal. One example I can give you that in this scenario that he was able to hack, he was able to access the social media. So he went against the policy. So HR took the corrective action is terminate the person, and security team, what they did, they have seized his laptop, or we have discovered the system was infected with the virus now. So corrective action was remove the system from the network instead of doing an investigation there. So that is a temporary activity what we did. And then we have a recovery control. Recovery control is basically restore the operating condition back to the normal. So with the same example is HR will find a new candidate and replace the person. So that is an administrative recovery control. And incident management team, what they did, they removed the virus, reinstall the new window and system back to the production. So corrective control is a temporary activity, whereas a recovery control is a permanent activity. Repair and restore the resources. So I'm sure you get the visibility. I can give you one more example from a COVID point of view. The government has announced no one's supposed to go out. So it's an instruction. Some SOC people, what they did, they wore mask, they carry the vaccinations, which is part of a preventative and compensating. Preventative means they have a vaccination, but still they cannot trust that. That's why we're wearing a mask and maintaining a social distance, which is a compensating control. When they reach office, they detect with the RT-PCR test and all that, and we discover they have a COVID symptoms. Definitely there we cannot do the investigation further. So we have isolate them immediately from the family and from the company. That is a corrective control. And then we went for the 14 days recovery. That is a recovery control. So this is how the control category work. When we're talking about these controls are basically applied in a different states of data. And we have a 3 states: data at rest, like it is stored data reside on a hard drive, tapes, in the cloud or storage media. And this data is prone to the extraction by the insider or external attacker who gain access to the system and able to browse through the content and all that. So data resides somewhere in a storage. Second, data is sent over the network. Okay, so when data travel on the untrusted network, it is open for eavesdropping attack and all that. And data is most vulnerable in a processing. Another name of data in processing is called as a data in use. Right now I'm running a PPT, it is a data in use. I'm uploading this video on YouTube. You can take a print screen of any PPT. So that is the data in use. So we use masking. Okay, we use tokenization during a data in processing. During a data in transit, we can use TLS, SSL, and data at rest, we can use a storage-based encryptions. So if you find this video useful, do share in your network and do let me know what is the next video you want to make on cybersecurity fundamental. If you're new to the channel, click on the subscribe button, click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss any of my video. Thank you for watching this video.